Hello and welcome to another video. Today I will be showing you the new features that I have added in the last around 8 weeks of work that I've done on the game. I've been working every weekday since, and now I will show you the progress that I've made. As I had said in my last video, I wanted an opening story or an opening cutscene, and I have finished that completely. And so the first thing I had to do was create the interior of the wagon. And so I needed a bed for the player to sleep in, and a lantern for light in the night, since that is when the cutscene starts. I completed that with the help of Blender Guru, and then I began work on the player movement. Other than dealing with the first person camera stuff, that was pretty simple. The main action of the cutscene begins with the player getting jump scared by a wolf. So I had to design a wolf which doesn't look that good because the face is, other than the face, the wolf looks pretty decent. The face kind of looks like a boar. I didn't know how to get the snout to shape correctly. But anyway, once the wolf jump scares the player, then the player sees rats in the corner of the cabin. And now he's decided that if he feeds the rats to the wolves after poisoning the rats, then maybe that'll kill the wolves. And at that point, the player takes over and he gets to kill the rats with the pouch of gold that his wallet was swapped out for. And so he's going to hit the rats with the pouch of gold, which will murder them. And then he can stuff the rats full of his phone's battery pieces, which will poison the wolves and kill them. There isn't any science behind this, but I assumed lithium is not fit for consumption. After the player deals with the rats, the cutscene will start again, and the player, not under control by the actual player, will throw the rats out of the window. The wolves will die, and he'll drag the wolves back to the wagon, and then a new morning begins. And in the morning, the player discovers that this is not just a normal world set in an old ages where all of his modern stuff has been removed. No, there are orcs, and one of those orcs came to the wagon, and now he's going to talk to the orc to try to get him some information and possibly some tools. And with that, I needed to design an orc, and so I used a video for reference for some Blender stuff, and then I began to get to work creating the orc with several other tutorials. And eventually I completed him, and he didn't look half bad. He looked better than the wolf, that's for sure. And so, with the orc done, I had to design the pathfinding for the orc to get to the window, and then I had to create the interaction so that the player could interact with the orc. After that was done, I needed to work on another thing that I had planned, which was the research system stuff, which is actually going to be a knowledge system. I came up with the idea of having 3 branches, and the branches, basically an overall skill tree that would have 3 branches, and the 3 branches being MISC, food, and technology. And so, in each of those, so when you engage in conversations with happy customers, you'll have opportunities to gain one of those branch points, which you can use on anything inside the branch. And some things will, you know, climb off of others, like in a normal skill tree. That's the idea that I had. And so I worked up a little UI thingy in Blender because I didn't want to do the UI in an overlay. I wanted it to be inside the game. And so I made something in Blender, and then I made another thing in Blender, and then I put it all together and then created a script to deal with all of that. With that done, I began to work on a job board, and the job board would be for stuff the player couldn't do, because I didn't ever want the player to leave the wagon. So the player would need access to meat, and so a hunter. So the player could hire a hunter to get meat for him, and that's a way to use gold, because the knowledge tree uses those points and not gold. And you'll get gold from the customers purchasing things from your menu, which is another thing I'll get to in a second. So the main system in the wagon will be a station system. And so my station system is basically to where you'll have 10 spaces. So you have like spaces along the interior of the wagon and on the walls of the wagon. And you can click on those spaces and then you can assign a station to those spaces. And so one of the stations, for instance, would be the menu or a storage. And so when the player finishes their interaction with the orc, they'll have 2 storage stations already built, which will hold the 3 corpses of the wolves. And you'll be able to take one of those corpses, put it into your hand, and then drag it over to the menu where you can create an item with that corpse as a base and then set the price for it, set the name for the item, and then you'll have a new menu item which the customers can order. And that's about all that I've done. And so the future things that I plan to do is customer interaction, better customer interaction. That's going to include all of the features. Day progression, like a day and night cycle, and the fire station, shopping station, and plating station, which will be based off of the tools that you can buy from that orc in your first interaction. And then basically the overall goal for this future work is to get a functioning first day for the player. Since I made so many new features, I wasn't able to go into detail on pretty much any of them as much as I did in the first video. So I plan on making a little mini-series which will have videos focusing on specific aspects for more detail, like the storage panel that has the grabbing of items and stuff, which was a hassle to create, to say the least. If you want to see any particular thing before any other, just leave a comment and I will prioritize that one. And with that, goodbye.